Now we are discussing another Q&A related to the inorganic chemistry. That is, I have three solutions called A, B and C. I don't know which one is which. One of that may be barium hydroxide, the other one will be zinc acetate, the other one is sodium carbonate. So this is the question. Explain how you identify the following compounds by adding drop of one to another. Drop of this one added to this and this, or the drop of this one added to this and this, or the drop of this one added to this and this. Likewise, drop wise mixing, you have to get the identity of A and identity of B and identity of C. Right. So to start this answer, I have to start from some point, right? So I imagine drop of A is added to B and drop of A is added to C. Sometimes the student can do in other way around, doesn't matter. So in my case, I concern A is adding to B and drop of A is added to C also, right? So I concern that imagine drop of A is added to B and C, right? So we add A to B and C. Now just imagine if A is barium hydroxide, right? I don't know whether it is exactly barium hydroxide or not, but if A is barium hydroxide, in a case, if A is barium hydroxide, just imagine A is barium hydroxide. If the A is barium hydroxide, that means we are adding barium hydroxide to the other thing, right? So for my EC, I concern A is barium hydroxide, right? And the B is, I concern B is zinc acetate and the C is sodium carbonate. So A is barium hydroxide, right? That means now what I am doing, I am adding barium hydroxide, BaOH twice. Barium hydroxide is adding to this solution, to the B. A is barium hydroxide. I concern B randomly. I just think, right? Imagine I think that B is zinc acetate. So B contains what then? B contains Zn 2 plus ions, right? As barium hydroxide is a strong base like the sodium hydroxide, it makes now zinc hydroxide white precipitate. It makes what? Zinc hydroxide white precipitate. This is a precipitate and that is white color. Okay, that's a precipitate and it is white in color. And then just imagine if I add excess, right? If I add excess barium hydroxide to this one, right? Now look at here, I said last video also, zinc is amphoteric. Amphoteric hydroxides are dissolved. Amphoteric hydroxides are dissolved with the excess strong base like sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide. Those are the examples we took in the last video. But the barium hydroxide also plays the same role, right? So now what will happen? Then if the excess barium hydroxide is added, it makes BaZnO2, which dissolves in water. Okay, so therefore when the barium hydroxide, if A is barium hydroxide, if B is this thing, here it makes a white precipitate first. With the excess it may dissolve. Okay, then look at here, if A is barium hydroxide and C is sodium carbonate, if A is barium hydroxide, so this is what the A is now, and C is what? Sodium carbonate is a C, right? When the barium hydroxide and sodium carbonate react, it makes a barium carbonate, right? So the barium carbonate also white precipitate. Barium carbonate white precipitate, when we add excess barium hydroxide like earlier one, not dissolve. So if A is barium hydroxide, when A is added to B, if B gives just imagine B gives white precipitate and with excess dissolve, then B should be definitely this one, right? And C gives white precipitate and it does not dissolve with excess, that means C means this one, right? The one, if A is barium hydroxide, right, if A is barium hydroxide, this drop makes the white precipitate with this and dissolve with excess. This drop makes the white precipitate with this and not dissolve with excess, right? The one which makes the white precipitate with the both the others is a barium hydroxide. Because why? This and this connect, this and this mix, nothing happens, right? No observation. So if C is barium, for an just imagine, if the C is barium hydroxide, then C is added to this, it makes one precipitate and dissolves, and this one makes a permanent white precipitate, like that. Therefore I can say one which makes a white precipitate and dissolve with the excess with one the tube and make permanent with white precipitate with another is barium hydroxide. So the barium hydroxide sample can be identified like that. That is the one. Any of this can be barium hydroxide. Anyhow, the barium hydroxide one is the one that it makes white precipitate and dissolve with excess, and white precipitate and not dissolve with excess, that is the barium hydroxide. So that's how we identify these three, by mixing only that three without using any other thing, right?